Thank you, and good evening, everyone. This is Adam Hasner, candidate for United States House of Representatives in District 22, and I just really appreciate you taking the time to be on this call tonight. I really enjoy this type of forum. I hope everyone's having a great evening. I know there's a lot of folks who are getting their kids back to school, so I hope that's off to a great start. And I also know that we're all watching this approaching storm, so I know we just need to be prepared and take necessary precautions as appropriate. I'm going to take a few minutes just to share some of my thoughts and introduce myself, and then I want everybody to know I'll be more than glad to take questions, and if you want to ask a question, I believe all you need to do is hit *3. So let me just begin by welcoming all of you who are joining this call from the communities from West Palm Beach all the way down to Fort Lauderdale and Plantation along the coast, and hosting these calls to personally connect and share my views and take questions, I think, on the issues that are important to all of us. This is something that we're going to be doing throughout the campaign, and again, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your evening. Just as a quick introduction, I was raised in Palm Beach County. My wife Jillian and I now live in Boca Raton. I have over 15 years of private sector business experience working in the healthcare industry with hospitals and physician practices, and I also served in the State House of Representatives from 2002 to 2010, representing many of the coastal communities in southern Palm Beach County and northern Broward County. I would invite you to visit adamhasner.com to learn a little bit more about me. You can read about my personal commitments to you as your next United States Congressman, and also check out my views on the issues. There's a map of the new District 22 on the website as well, so I encourage you to visit adamhasner.com. I know we have a lot of folks on the call, a lot of folks from all political parties, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, and so I know that I can tell you there's something that I can tell you that we all agree on, and that is very simply this, that Washington is broken. And I would tell you that I believe our country is headed in the wrong direction. Our spending is unsustainable, and the economic growth that we've seen and the job creation that we've seen is simply not getting us to where we need to be. But the fact is that both parties are to blame for where we are, and both parties are responsible. I believe that one of the biggest problems that we have in Washington right now is that our representatives up there don't live by the same set of rules as everybody else. And I think what makes me different from not only my opponent, but from candidates in both parties, is that I've made certain commitments. And I think, and I'd like to share some of those with you, but I think the fact is that too many in Washington have been there for far too long. They're out of touch. They care more about their own personal interest and personal agenda than those that they represent. And I think really it starts by leading by example. And one of the things that during my time in the state legislature in Tallahassee, I helped lead the effort to cut the salary for myself and every member of the Florida House and the Florida Senate. Now, I'm sure you can imagine that didn't make me very popular in Tallahassee, but it was the right thing to do when we were working to balance our budget with less revenues. It's also why I'm a strong believer in term limits, and I have committed as part of this campaign to you to term limit myself to only 4 terms. And I think that's important because we need new blood in Washington in order to tackle the big problems that we face. It's why I've also said and have also committed that I would never vote for or accept a pay increase in Congress. I know that you can't just vote for your own pay increase at your job, and so I think part of living by the same set of rules is making sure that members of Congress can increase their own salaries. It's why I've also committed to refusing a congressional pension, simply because Congress shouldn't be able to have access to a retirement plan that's not available to the rest of us who are paying for it. And it's why I also believe in a very simple concept for Washington called no budget, no pay. What that says is, imagine this, if you didn't have a budget for your business or for your family, things would get out of control pretty quickly. And that's basically what we have now in Washington. We've gone over 3 years now without a federal budget, and I just believe that that's irresponsible and unacceptable. And so I think those are some key differences that have separate me from my opponent as well as from candidates in both parties. But let me just share with you too that I would tell you that America is in a fiscal crisis, and the only way that we can solve it is if we have leaders who are going to offer real solutions and not avoid confronting the problems that we face just because it's easier to use them as political weapons to attack the opponents and win elections, because clearly this strategy is not working for our country. And one thing I can tell you from traveling throughout District 22 is that people are sick and tired of the name calling. The finger pointing and the blame game, it's got to stop. And let me just be the first to admit it. I've been guilty of it at times, but the reality is that the stakes are far too high for our country. So I don't believe that 2012, that this can be a rear view mirror election. I don't think this can be about looking to the past. I think it needs to, or it can also be about blaming the other side for the mess that we're in. I really believe that it needs to be about who has the best vision, who has the best ideas, who has the best solutions to get our fiscal house back in order and get our economy moving again. And I would tell you that I believe that everything that Washington does needs to be viewed through the lens of, will it lead to job growth, will it get spending under control, and will it make our country stronger? And I don't think the answers to those challenges are too tough. And the fact is that I don't think it's about being a Republican or being a Democrat. It's about math. And we can't as a country keep spending $1 trillion more a year than we're bringing in. We can't sustain a $16+ trillion debt that is now nearing the size of our nation's economy, and it's having devastating impacts in terms of stifling economic growth and putting our national security at risk, because we're borrowing nearly 40 cents of every dollar that we're spending. And so I believe we have to responsibly get spending under control, get revenues more aligned with expenses. It's why I believe in a balanced budget. And I would tell you that the only thing worse than the dysfunction in Washington is the fact that there's been a refusal in Washington to address our fiscal challenges. Let me just remind you too that if you want to ask a question after my remarks, please hit *3 on your phone, and I'd be glad to take any questions about some of the comments I've already made or any of the issues that are on your mind tonight. Let me just also point out an important fact, which is that over 60% of our federal budget, and it's actually a growing number, but over 60% of our federal budget is Medicare, Social Security, and Medicaid. And I'm a big believer that we need to make government run more efficiently. We need to eliminate waste and duplication. We need to examine defense spending and make needed reductions without jeopardizing our military preparedness and our national security. But with 10,000 people retiring every day and 8% healthcare inflation, I would tell you that the status quo in these programs are unsustainable. And it's so doing nothing about Medicare and Medicaid, I would tell you, is irresponsible, because the longer we wait to tackle this fiscal reality, the more difficult finding workable and sensible solutions are going to be. So doing nothing, the status quo actually, over the course of the next decade, will end Medicare as we know it. And that's not me telling you this. The trustees of Medicare have told us that the Medicare Trust Fund is going to be insolvent over the next decade. And that's why I've come out to support the bipartisan plan to save Medicare for those who currently rely on it today, and more importantly, strengthen it for future generations. Now, I know a lot of folks are watching the news and following what's been taking place in the debate, and there's a lot of scare tactics being thrown around. And so let me just reiterate, and let me make just sure that everybody knows that I don't support any changes for anyone who is currently on Medicare or nearing eligibility, people who are 55 years and over. And let me just also share with you, too, my mom's on Medicare. And so for her and millions like her, nothing about Medicare is going to change. But I think that in the course of the next decade, rather than raiding $700 billion from Medicare, what we need to do is talk about how we're going to protect it for those who are currently on it and more importantly, make sure that it's there for future generations. And let me just also remind you, too, I'd be glad to take any questions on Medicare or any of these other issues. Please hit *3 on your phone so that you can ask a question. And then finally, let me just talk about what I think, again, this election is really all about. How do we get our economy growing again? Because the fact that we have anemic economic growth and record unemployment right now, I believe the slowest recovery in decades, I find that to be unacceptable. And to get our economy back on the right track, I think there are some very common sense solutions. Part of that is reforming our tax code to make it flatter and simpler, to be able to eliminate loopholes and a lot of the favoritism that's been written into it. I think one thing we need to do is right-size regulations, have common sense regulations for the 21st century. No one's talking about polluting the air or polluting the water, but the reality is that regulations are overburdening small businesses and preventing entrepreneurs and preventing job creators from being able to go out and grow their businesses and be successful and hire more people. And then I think there's a very important issue, and it's one that I'm very passionate about, which is making sure that we have a sound domestic energy policy for more made-in-America energy. And again, I believe we can do it effectively and efficiently, and we can also make sure that we do it environmentally responsibly. And being able to be more energy secure and energy independent is not only going to be important for creating jobs, but it's also important for our nation's security. And I think one of the key factors, too, is as part of getting our economy going again is we have to create certainty for small businesses so that they can hire and invest, so that they can create jobs and grow. And part of that, again, is through knowing what the environment's going to look like as it relates to taxes and regulations. And so what I would tell you is right now, with 75 days to go before Election Day, there are two very different directions that our country can go in during the next few years and beyond. And I'm sure I watch a lot of the same television programs that you do and listen to the debate. And I know that every single day we are told and we're reminded about what divides us. But the one thing I can tell you from meeting with thousands of people from throughout our community, the truth is that we all share, regardless of political party, we all share something very important in common that unites us. And I believe it's this. It's that we all want to make sure that our children have better opportunities than we have, that they surpass the goals that we set for them, and more importantly, that they set for themselves. And I can tell you this, it's part of my story. It's part of who I am. Both of my parents were public school teachers, and they had $31 to their name when I was born. And they made sacrifices, and they made tough decisions that allowed me to be able to pursue my education, to have a successful career in the private sector, to be able to serve in the Florida legislature, and now pursue my passion to serve you in the United States House of Representatives. And I'm sure each and every one of you has your story about the sacrifices that your parents made for you and the sacrifices that you're now making for your children. And I really believe at the end of the day that that's really the story of America. And I really believe that that's what this election is all about. And I can tell you that every time, when you look back through history, every time America has been tested, we've risen to the challenge and we've answered the call. And so I believe this is another one of those times for us to be able to tackle the big problems and put America back on the right track. And so I hope that over the next 75 days I earn your support, and I hope to have the opportunity with your help to be your voice to fix Washington and help put America back on the move again. And so let me just thank each and every one of you for taking some time out of your schedule. I welcome the opportunity to take questions. Please hit *3 on your phone to ask me a question. And I would also, again, remind you to please visit adamhasner.com to learn more or sign up for our email newsletter. Again, hit *3 if you have any questions. And again, thank you so much for being on our call tonight.
Adam, this is Tim from Boca Raton with a question.
Yes, Adam, I know you already touched a lot on Medicare, and thank you for bringing us up to speed on a lot of where you stand on it. There certainly has been a lot of confusion going on in the local media. But given your stance on it, where not only further on how you stand, but how does that differ from your opponent in this race?
Well, thank you for the question. I know this is an issue that's been on the news a lot lately, and I'm glad it's on the news a lot for the simple fact that we need to get the facts out. And under the current plan, which my opponent supports, it raised over $700 billion from Medicare over the next decade, and it takes that money and puts it in to the healthcare system to help pay for the expansion of Medicaid and other programs, quite frankly, that are just as fiscally fragile right now. And so the plan that I support is one which is going to, most importantly, save Medicare for those who are currently on it, like my mom, who I referenced, and the millions of others like her, and for those who are, let's say, 55 and over, who are nearing eligibility. And then it's going to strengthen it and have a better program for the future for those who are in my generation, for those who might be the children of many of you who are on the call. And I can tell you this, that doing nothing about the fiscal health of Medicare is going to end Medicare as we know it. And I think that's what the most important factor is to understand, is that the trustees have said Medicare is going to go bankrupt within the next decade. And so I think we have a responsibility to save Medicare for those who are currently on it or nearing eligibility, and more importantly, make sure that those types of promises of security are there for future generations.
Adam, this is Pam from Fort Lauderdale with a question.
Hello, Mr. Hasner.
Good evening, Pam. Thank you.
Hi. It seems that the politicians in Washington forgot who they're working for. It seems that they're broken up there, and I'd like to know how you're going to fix that.
Well, thank you for that question, and let me be the first to say that I think both parties are just as blameworthy when it comes to the fact that they're out of touch with what's going on. I referenced earlier some of my commitments that are on my website at adamhasner.com. I've committed to never voting for or accepting a pay increase. I know that you can't vote for your own pay increase at work, and I don't think members of Congress should either. I think members of Congress, many have been there for far too long. It's why I'm a big believer in term limits. It's why I said I would not accept a congressional pension, because these are things where members of Congress are not living by the same set of rules as everybody else. For example, the insider trading scandals in Washington, where members of Congress are trading stocks on information that if you or I had the information that they had and did what they did, we would go to jail. They're actually personally profiting while they're on the taxpayer dime while doing it. And so I think it is something where we need to make sure that the representatives that we send to Washington live by the same set of rules as the rest of us, and more importantly, after they're done serving, they go back home and live under the laws that they pass. And it's a commitment that I'm making in my campaign. Leading by example is something that I've done, as I mentioned, during my time in the legislature, leading the effort to cut my pay, my salary as a state representative, and the salary of other representatives and senators in Tallahassee. And I think that's the type of attitude that we need in Washington right now, people who aren't concerned about their own personal agenda or political consequences, but who are more concerned about tackling the tough challenges that we face and, more importantly, putting America back on the right track.
Adam, this is David from Hillsborough Beach with a question.
Hi, Adam. I'm so glad I took your call tonight. I know the elite media is not really telegraphing to everybody in the country about the $700 billion cut in Medicare. And my interest here is I'm on Medicare, and I don't want to see it 10 years from now go down the tubes. And if we don't do something about it, it certainly is going to do that. My question is this: in order for you to get your message out to your constituents in the 22nd district, how is your fundraising going in terms of generating enough money to get your message out to the people who still do not understand that if we don't do something, that $700 billion cut in Medicare that's going to fund Obamacare and death panels, etc. How are we going to get that message out unless we have congressional delegation like yours to get it out in your campaigning efforts? If you don't have enough money to get it out, is your campaigning paying off fundraising wise? And what can we, those of us who stayed on the call, who obviously are interested in what you're having to say, what can we do to help you? Now, I know that's like a loaded question, but I want to see someone different up there than what's there, and I think you're the guy.
Well, thank you very much, David, and let me just share with you and the others, go to adamhasner.com. In addition to being able to sign up for the email and be a part of our team volunteering, you can also make a contribution at adamhasner.com. And I think many of us know that we live in a very expensive region of the state, region of the country for that matter, and it's expensive to put television ads up and to be able to effectively communicate your message in a media market in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami media market, and in West Palm, where it's a lot of things are going on. And so it does cost money to run an effective campaign, and so we're always very proud of those who support us and very thankful for those who contribute their money, both in terms of small contributions and large contributions. But let me say this, because I think this is more important in terms of getting our message out. I think people are sick of the scare tactics. I think what people are looking for now, David, more than anything, is how do we have a real debate? How do we have a real debate on the real issues and the real differences between the candidates? Enough with the finger pointing, enough with the name calling. Let's talk about what each candidate believes. Let's talk about what each candidate believes are the right ideas and the right solutions to tackle the fiscal challenges and tackle the economic challenges in terms of job creation that we have. And so I hope that's what the next 75 days we have in store here in District 22, so that we can really frame this debate as one about different visions for the future of this country. And so your help financially and the help of others financially is greatly appreciated, so we can get that message out and have that debate. So thank you.
Adam, this is Linda from Plantation with a question.
Yeah, hi. Are you there?
Yes, Linda. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. It's a two-part question, and then I had an additional question on top of it, short and sweet. But basically, I was laid off in 2009, and my income has been cut in half because of it, and I'm now retired on Social Security. Therefore, all of my expenses and such have to be cut in half. And that has not been easy to do. But I notice when our Congress meets, even though we're running deficit spending and they can't get a handle on the budget in any way, shape, or form, they don't take any kind of a personal pay cut. And I wondered why. And I also hear that they do not contribute either to the Social Security Trust Fund or to the Medicare Fund, and yet they help themselves to it for their own personal needs. That's my two-part question. I just wondered why they think they're able to do that. And then just a quick question. You mentioned that you were involved in the medical industry, and I just wondered in what kind of a position.
Well, Linda, first, just let me say thank you for sharing your story with me. I know that sometimes candidates and others throw out numbers, and they're very important numbers, but there's a story behind every single person who's unemployed or who's lost a job or who is unable to get back to work. And so I appreciate you sharing your story with us. As for me, my professional experience has been working with hospitals and physician practices primarily managing physician practices and employing physicians in a healthcare delivery system to help create a more efficient, better healthcare integrated network between hospitals and physician practices. And so I've been on the business side of healthcare for over a decade of working with doctors, understanding the dollars and cents of healthcare and the challenges that our physician providers and our physicians and other healthcare providers face. And quite honestly, they are under a lot of stress. If there are some physicians and others, nurses and others on the call, they understand this. Their revenues are being cut. Their expenses are going up due to more regulations and more red tape, and so there's really a lot of pressure on them. And that's something that for many years I've had the opportunity to work with those doctors and those healthcare systems to try to more effectively run the business so that doctors can do, as I like to say, doctors can do what they love to do, which is provide patient care and take care of people. As back to your issue of members of Congress, and I can't agree with you more. It's something that I talk about every day. Our representatives in Washington don't live by the same set of rules as everybody else, and it's why I believe in the concept of no budget, no pay. I talk about small businesses and families. If they didn't have a budget to run their business, or you didn't have a household budget to figure out what you have to be able to spend and how you're going to pay for your housing and your electricity and your groceries and your medications. If you don't have a budget, you're going to find yourself probably spending far too much or putting too much on a credit card. And that's what we've seen in Washington. And rather than actually tackle the problem, what they've done is really continued to avoid trying to solve this problem. And so we haven't had a budget now, I believe, in over 3 years coming out of Washington. And I find that to be completely irresponsible. And so this no budget, no pay concept is something that I hope every member of Congress will sign on to, because it's like lighting a fire underneath the rear ends of members in Washington, because if they're not going to get paid, then you know that they're going to do the job. And I think this idea of no budget, no pay sends the right message. It says, if Washington, you're not going to do the one very simple thing of passing a budget, a responsible budget, but if you're not going to do that, then you shouldn't get paid for failing to do your job. And so I know the challenges that you face, certainly individually, and I think it's why your representative, and I hope to be your representative in Washington, I will know your story, and I will make sure that I try to set the right example in Washington, D.C., to live by the same set of rules as everybody else.
Adam, this question is from Parasita in Boca Raton.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking my call. I remember when you came to my door years ago in your red motorcycle, and it really makes a difference. And I still remember you, and I can tell you that you got my vote. However, I would like to ask you about how are you going or planning to implement the no budget, no pay. Is something that I'm curious about.
Well, first, thank you for remembering. It's been, that was 10 years ago during my first campaign, and it really was such a wonderful experience to go door to door to over 10,000 homes and during that campaign and meet folks like you. And we continue to walk door to door. The scooter's gone. But again, thank you for being on the call and for remembering. Listen, this is about leadership by example. And we can't force members of Congress not to. There is a piece of legislation which I have pledged to support, which would implement no budget, no pay. But I really think this is about putting peer pressure on your colleagues in Washington. And I think it starts at the grassroots level, back at home, throughout the country. And I hope this is a movement that really takes off, because I think what happens is that Washington, you get inside that bubble, and I have my wife to make sure that I don't. But sometimes what I think happens is that they forget who they work for, and they think that they're more important than the people that they represent. And so that's why the no budget, no pay concept is one which I'll be a leader on, and it's one in which I will do my best to put that type of peer pressure on my colleagues. And it's what I did when I was in Tallahassee in the state legislature, leading the effort in Tallahassee to cut the salaries of every member, myself and every member of the Florida House and Florida Senate, to cut our salaries back in 2007 when we had to reduce spending because we were beginning the economic downturn in Florida. And so it's about leadership by example, and I hope more people will join me in this effort in Washington, so that not so that we don't have pay, but more importantly, so that we have a budget.
Adam, this question is from Christopher in Boca Raton.
Hello there.
Good evening, Christopher.
Good evening. You had me at term limits. I haven't heard anyone talking about that for a long time, so I was really, that's a good thing to hear. The real reason I wanted to ask you tonight was that South Florida's job market is particularly unusual from many parts of the country. And I just wanted to get your opinion on what you think is some of the stumbling blocks that we have in this area for generating job growth, and what you will do once you do get into the House and are able to affect some change.
Well, thank you again, Christopher. And just for those who may not have heard earlier, I support term limits, and I've pledged to term limit myself after 4 terms. And as I said earlier, I think it's critical that we have fresh blood up there, especially because we've had far too many people up there for far too long who are out of touch. You bring up an excellent point about South Florida being a very unique region in the country, and we face a lot of challenges, but at the same time, too, I would tell you that we also have a lot of opportunities. I look throughout this district, the coastal communities, and realize that we have a tremendous opportunity with the ports. Speaking of Port Everglades specifically, with the post-Panama Canal expansion, I think about some of the accomplishments that I was able to work on during my time in the legislature by recruiting the Scripps Research Institute to Palm Beach County to establish the medical school, the 4-year medical school at Florida Atlantic University, to create the Ocean Energy Initiative in Fort Lauderdale to be able to harness the Gulf Stream for electricity. And so there's so many different, I think, innovations down here to be able to create jobs. One of the big stumbling blocks, I would tell you, is government regulation. I think one of the other issues is the uncertainty that's out there. I think also too we have to bolden our position in education, and I think here in Palm Beach and Broward County we have a tremendous gem in Florida Atlantic University. I think it can be a launching pad for economic growth in healthcare, in energy, and so many other technology sectors. We've had so much potential here in Florida. We've let some of it get away, whether it was IBM or whether it's Motorola, whether it's some of these other companies now. But I think we need to really change the perception of South Florida from being one where people simply come to retire and enjoy, to one where it is a great place to not only live, not only retire, but also to learn and also to work and create jobs. And so I think we need to do a better job down here of recruiting companies from around the country, and more importantly, we need to do a better job of making sure that those with great ideas and capital have the ability to connect and have the ability to start these small businesses out of their garage that one day can lead to creating, whether it's 5 jobs or 500 jobs here throughout our region. And I think when we can get there and we can attract those types of companies, large and small, and grow those companies, large and small, South Florida will be not just a hub or a gateway to other parts of the world, but in and of itself, we can become an economic powerhouse, one that really makes it such a vibrant place to live and work. And so I really appreciate you giving me that opportunity to share some of my thoughts on that.
Adam, this is Mary Jane from Delray Beach.
Hi there, Adam. I listened to everything you had to say, and I'm very much in favor of everything you said. However, I don't think you're in my district, but I certainly will support you in any way I can. But I have a question for you. I am retired and over 55, obviously, and I'm a great-grandmother, and I am not on an HMO. I'm a cancer survivor, and without supplement insurance, I would not be here today. And I'm wondering what's going to happen to our secondary insurance. If you don't want to go on an HMO, I definitely don't want to go into managed care. My oncologist and radiologist and my surgeon have told me I would not be alive today if I was on managed care and did not have the tests. I had a very rare cancer that they see once every 5 years, and I must have tests throughout the year, not many, but I'm wondering what's going to happen to my supplement insurance.
Well, again, to you, Mary Jane, thank you for sharing your story. Cancer is a disease that I think touches everybody in one way or another who knows somebody or loves somebody and who's either a survivor like yourself or somebody who has lost a loved one. I'm proud to tell you that I was named the American Cancer Society Legislator of the Year 2 years in a row during my time in Tallahassee for working to advance innovative research and to help fund research to find cures. And I know we're all so passionate about that. And so let me just thank you for sharing your personal story. As it relates to your ability to access health care, let me just reiterate that all of the plan that I support, the bipartisan plan that I support as it relates to those on Medicare and those who are nearing eligibility, including my mom who is on Medicare as well right now, that plan does not impact you in any way because we understand how important it is to save Medicare for those who currently rely on it and those who have organized their lives around it. And so I think you hear a lot on television and a lot of the scare tactics and the finger pointing, and I can't reiterate it enough. But the real challenge is that some the current law, some actually who are advocating for the current path that we're on, which is raiding $700 billion from Medicare, which I think will have a limiting effect on your choices in the future, the doctors that you're going to have access to, the hospitals that you're going to have access to, the types of plans that you're going to have access to, because as we talk about the future fiscal health of Medicare, if we stay on the same path that my opponent supports and that we're currently on, I'm very concerned that it's not going to only have an impact on those who are 55 and younger. I'm concerned that it's going to have an impact on those who are currently over 55, those who are currently on Medicare. And I think that's really the big difference between my vision for the future as it relates to keeping the promise to today's seniors, is making sure that we have that we have a plan in place that doesn't jeopardize it for those like yourself. And so I really hope that we get to have this debate over the next 75 days about the different plans, the plan that I support to save and strengthen Medicare for today's seniors and those who are nearing eligibility, and more importantly, protecting it for future generations. And really, I think a path that we're on right now, which is going to negatively impact a lot of people who are currently on Medicare and those who are nearing eligibility. So I really want to thank you, Mary Jane, and let me just thank everybody for being on the call tonight. We're going to continue to have these types of calls. I hope you will tell your friends and your neighbors who live in District 22 about me, tell them to go to our website, adamhasner.com. For those of you who'd like to see the new map of the district, adamhasner.com, there's a way for you to type in your address to check to see if you live in the district. If you receive this call tonight, though, it's very much likely that you do live in the district, so I appreciate you taking the time to be on the call. Again, visit adamhasner.com. I look forward to continuing this conversation, and I certainly hope to earn your vote and support in 75 days on November 6th. So thank you all so much, and have a wonderful evening.